But the biggest thing for me is again choosing that identity, right? Because I feel like most Africans, especially Nigerians, I'll just talk about Nigerians. Nigerians will have the collective, how should I put it? They have the path already written for them, you know, by parents or whatever, right? And I feel like this soil, which I'm still navigating, this soil gives you that privilege to explore. Right? So say the path that was written already for you was to be an engineer, which is great. You know, it's wonderful. However, you know, the identity comes in, and hopefully it doesn't clash, but the identity comes in and tells you, okay, sure, this is what you're studying, but let's really reflect. Now we think you know yourself better. Do you still want to study this?
Yeah.
And my experience was absolutely not.
Thanks, Eddy, for, joining the In My Radius podcast today. Really excited to, have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And In My Radius podcast is essentially, for people who are within my radius to come chat about their work, their study abroad experience, and how that kind of like relate to what they do, how life is going, and then essentially talk about what they are doing and, they intend to do in their field, and how all of the experiences have essentially played into that. So excited to get started.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So I would like for you to do like a very, straight up intro about yourself. Like no sugarcoating, right?
Don't sugarcoat the thing, anything, right?
No. Just give an intro about yourself, your work, who you are, and how we should get to know you.
Of course, absolutely. So my name is Edidiong Ekpo. That's how you say it with the tone, the accent too. My people.
We just call you Eddy.
Yeah, but people. People call me Eddy. That's kind of like the Eddy's cool. But I've been in the United States for, I would say, around clocking on 14 years now. And it's been nice. It's been nice. It's been fun. It's been dramatic. I mean, everything, so. And if anything, the one thing I feel so grateful, I was actually thinking about this morning. What's the one thing? What's that thing? Why do you keep doing what you do? What's my guy? What's up?
Yeah.
And then the thing that kept, hitting me in the back was an example, right? Being an example that as a people, selfishly, specifically, I will focus just on my own, people say tribe, I'll focus on my own. I'm from a state called Akwa Ibom. I'll focus on my people. My people are very reserved. We mind our business, and the reason that keeps pushing me, the reason that motivates me to, that American dream we keep talking about, right? To keep going is specifically to give a voice to my people. So just a summary, again, name is Eddy. I skipped that I am a multidisciplinary artist, and yeah, I love what I do. A lot of what I do is conveying emotion and conveying vibrancy,
cool.
to the world.
Thank you. And you did mention a couple of things I kind of like want to, touch on a little bit, right? I'm going to come here in a little bit and, ask more about what it means to be a multidisciplinary artist and how that kind of like, how your experience kind of like pull into that. But as you mentioned, Akwa Ibom, it reminds me of my very first time in Uyo. Uyo is a very beautiful and vibrant city. I remember I visited my aunt, Dolly. She used to live in Uyo. She lives in Seattle now, but she used to live in Uyo. And the first time I was in Uyo, I think it was in 22, 23. She had invited me over to come spend the weekend there.
So it's recent.
Yeah, very clean city, very beautiful people. The food was 10 over 10.
Don't play with the food, man. We don't play with that.
No, and I kind of like the, the point you made around just being able to giving that medium for self-expression, right? And I think that is kind of like going to lead me into my next question in terms of have you always wanted to be an artist? And, what is the multidisciplinary part of being an artist?
So I really love that question because that's something I have to, that's one thing that pushes me is me, you got to go back to,
Mhm.
okay, what's the core, right? What's the thing?
Yeah.
Why, right? And for me, the big thing is it's always been my identity. That's the big word
Mhm.
that's the word that I keep going back to is the identity push to express myself, right? And I feel like, I will always be that guy, right? I always be that guy that thinks about, okay, but what's the reason why?
Mhm.
If I say I'm having, I'm supposed to be having a good time at a party or
Mhm.
something. And still I'm like, okay, what's the purpose of this? Right. I'm that guy. Right. So I feel like at the end of the day, I had to find something. Right. I had to find something that was, that staring pot to always entertain the whys of the world, the whys of
Mhm.
this, the whys of this. And thank God art was a perfect platform to experiment with that, right? And that's where it comes back to me being myself is I feel like art was that cheat code, to embrace myself, but also provide service to the world. And I feel like one of that service is making people enjoy the vibrancy of life, the colors of life, making people, self-reflect,
Mhm.
reflect about life. Art is so powerful with the way it shapes cultures and the way it shapes communities. And I feel like I'm in the front line, spreading that message.
Amazing. So that is really beautiful. And does that kind of like play into the multidisciplinary aspect of, the
Yeah,
work that
yeah,
you do? Yeah.
absolutely. So it's, the multi being multiple, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I have a hard time not being curious, right?
Mhm.
I've tried. It's hard, but with the curiosity aspect, it's me, curious about, okay, what does this do? What does this do? Again, the tools are ready. They're ready for, just there. And I have to be curious enough to experiment, right? In terms with photography was one of the main was my baby, the
Mhm.
firstborn, right? Is the one
Yeah.
I was curious enough to, okay, how do I see the world? Because even now we're talking, right? We're talking,
Mhm.
we're having a good time. But then I'm also that guy that's okay. How does Paul see the world, and how can
Right.
I hit Paul specially by how I see the world through Paul's eyes?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just keeps going. And I had to. Then I was curious about painting. I was curious about storytelling and different aspects. And you and I can't ignore Nigeria is so vibrant with, stories and culture, especially.
In the
And I think a
colors
lot,
and the fabrics and
exactly,
everything too. Yeah.
100%. So I feel like most of that, that was like just an obvious leap, that translated into my curiosity to express, especially coming from Nigeria, expressing the voice is expressing the love, the energy, especially, so
Nice.
multidisciplinary, that part just came from being curious about different mediums
Areas
of
of art.
art.
Mediums of art. I like that. I like that. Thank you. And you and I first met as international student on campus,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's some interesting times right there. So Eddie and I think at some point in time, we may not have been on campus together, but at least we crossed paths, at some point. I remember vividly there was a party we went to. I think it was a weekend. I still have photos from that party.
Do
I
you?
think I think, yeah, I'll send you some of those photos. I was looking
Okay,
for
cool, cool,
them.
cool.
I think I was looking for those photos on my drive, but they're not
Uh,
on my drive. So I'll find them from a different drive and I'll send you. I remember, it was myself and Ake. We went to
yeah, yeah,
we went
yeah,
to that
yeah,
party. Atitida
yeah,
was there. John
yeah.
Umaren was there.
Mhm, mhm.
Gope, and all of those
Yeah.
people, right? So I do
That's
remember.
the
I think that
gang
was
right
like,
there. That's the
you
family
know,
right there.
yeah.
That's
I think that
family.
was like the first time, we kind of like did have some kind of conversation, and then I think you moved out of town for
Yeah,
some reason, at that
yeah,
point in time. So,
yeah.
and my next question is kind of like going to center around that, right?
Hmm.
I came to the US as an international student, right? And I'm assuming you came to the US for education as well. Or
Correct. Yeah, correct.
okay. So
Yeah.
how, how studying abroad shaped you, your worldview, or even you getting into this whole art thing, right? How has that
Yeah.
been?
Ooh, so it's been to be frank, it's been a lot, right? And I think you and other international immigrants would agree, it's the journey in America is not easy, right?
Mhm,
And the biggest thing for me though, right, is as some might not be a fan of what I'm about to say, but
mhm,
the biggest thing for me is again choosing that identity, right? Because I feel like most Africans, especially Nigerians, I'll just talk about Nigerians. Nigerians will have the collective, how should I put it? They have the path already written for them,
mhm,
by parents or whatever, right?
mhm,
And I feel like this soil, which I'm still navigating, this soil gives you that privilege to explore, right? So say the path that was written already for you was to be an engineer, which is
mhm,
great. It's wonderful.
mhm.
However, the identity comes in and hopefully it doesn't clash, but the identity comes in and tells you, okay, sure, this is what you're studying, but let's really reflect. Now we think you know yourself better. Do you still want to study this?
Yeah.
And my experience was absolutely not. I went for, it's just, I'm just keeping it honest. I'm just being
Mhm,
real. I went for a specific major and that just, there was a lot of clash and it was the opposite of what I'm doing right now. Right.
m'kay.
And I had to just keep it real and switch course completely, right? And with the system built, you have to be ahead, right? You have to find ways. If you're making that switch, okay, I'm not saying
Mhm,
no one should, but if you do, you have to, you have to work with the system as you're figuring it out. But you have to be kind to yourself as you figure it out too, as well. I think that's a key part I have to remind people is sure there's the responsibilities we have to do, but we
mhm.
really have to, think about ourselves and be kind, as we're dealing with America.
I agree. No, that
you
those are
know,
some really, yeah, those are some wise words. And I like the piece where you mentioned in terms of like, the average Nigerian, you've been programmed, right? The average
but it's
Nigerian has
it's it's a
been,
whole
yeah,
thing. Yeah, it's a whole
yeah, you've
thing.
been programmed like, hey, you come into this world and you are either a doctor, a
Hmm.
lawyer, or an
Hmm.
engineer. There's really not that much opportunity to say, hey, you know what? What if I wanted to become an artist, right?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
we see that, across different generations where, there's always this rebellious, there almost always this rebellious act, right? To want to do what you want to do.
Hmm.
So did you have to have that conversation about, hey, I know I came here to study to become a doctor and engineer, but hey, I think I want to pursue some form of art or some form of, self-expression type stuff.
Absolutely. So it's again it's tricky, right? Because you are in a position where you can only work with what you're given, right?
Mhm.
And the advice I would give, especially because art is tricky in that sense. Art is a lot of how should I put art is a lot of, it grants, if you've been granted to a specific space, that's kind of when you kind of start getting successful. It's not a
Mhm.
given, right? And if you are making that transition, I believe there's multiple parties involved to help you make that professionals. That was not my case.
Mhm.
Don't be like me. So that was not my case, but I would definitely advise that absolutely there's professionals that will help you make that transition. For me, it's just in Nigeria we say strong head,
Mhm. Yeah.
strong head
You
and
got
the
to bring the
hustling
strong get in,
spirits.
man.
Look, you just mine was just powering through and I'm still powering through to make it happen. But I believe that to make it a little more, less backbreaking, there are professionals that can help you with that transition. If it's possible in a legal system, in a legal, like
Mhm.
we have to consider those things as well, right?
Yeah.
As
Cool.
international students, so
Yeah.
you work with what's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess just to clarify, the transition I was really talking about is in terms of like, hey, I want to become from I'm an engineer to, hey, I want to become an artist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
is hard.
Yeah, and also I remember, right, when I came to the US as an international student, I think I came into wanting to study psychology, and then when I came and
Really?
I realized that, yeah, and I realized that,
Hmm.
no, heck no, I did not want to study psychology.
Yeah, yeah.
After one semester, I realized that psychology was not what I wanted to do. Then I, spoke with the people at the career office and they're like, yeah, maybe you should try this thing. And I remember changing my major like 4 different times in college,
Hmm.
man. Like it
Hmm.
was, it was just, I think it was also that part of me that was trying to figure out, what do I really want to do with my life? I mean,
I mean,
young,
the question I got for you though, real quick, is wait. So
yeah.
you had those people involved in the career
Hmm.
path. Did they?
Hmm.
Was there any points where someone called you like, okay, like you're kind of doing too much? Was that ever a thing or?
No, and I think I wish somebody had, right? But
Yeah.
there wasn't because yeah, there wasn't, and I wish somebody had because
Mm,
I think coming back, it was just a matter of just because of that also that expectation and that pressure that you have to be something.
mm,
Whereas the American kids, they were taking the foundation classes, right? They did not have this pressure of I wanted to take a specific class. They were taking all of the foundation classes. And then I think eventually, as they take the foundation classes, they were able to, figure out what
mm,
they enjoyed. And then from
yeah.
there, they were able to kind of like just filter themselves into a specific, a pathway. But I wish somebody had said, you know what, just enjoy being a college kid, just take all the foundation
Hmm.
classes and,
Mhm.
and have
Mhm.
fun, right?
Mm.
But
Mhm.
no, no.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I know. I agree. I think what you said is great, man.
Mm,
Because there's a reason we have a foundational, like the foundation core, right? There's
yeah.
you. It's like what is like. It's like a buffet, right? It's
Yeah.
like you got to
Exactly.
try exactly until you keep going back for the one you absolutely
Yeah.
like. So no,
Exactly.
I agree
I
100% what you said.
I remember taking an automotive maintenance class as an undergrad, and I think it was a 1 credit class. Actually, it was a half a credit class, and it was once a week for an hour. And I think that was like one of my favorite classes. Is I feel like I learned so much in that class that I did in almost most of my early undergrad years. I think you
Yeah.
call it
Yeah.
freshman. Yeah, in most of my freshman and sophomore year, I think that auto maintenance class has taught me things that I still use in my life today. Like
Really. Oh, wow.
changing a tire, like
Yeah. Yeah.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
I wish
cool. Yeah,
somebody
that's
had
great.
just maybe I'd have become maybe I'll be working for SpaceX now and then building spaceships. If
My
I
guy,
had
you
gone
don't
through
know. You don't know. We don't know, right? Like we don't know. Look, because like it's like we really are out here. We're always trying to figure the whole thing
yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
for real.
mm, good stuff.
Cool. So how does, for you, how does like, the experience studying abroad and then just navigating cultures, right? How
Mm,
does that show up in your work? Right. Like you're coming from Nigeria,
yeah.
from this city, this state, your vibrant culture, great language, amazing food.
Mm,
And then
mm-hmm.
you land in America, navigating life in America, navigating, being a student in America,
Yeah.
and then, of course, your life experience, throughout the years, right? How does that, show up in your work and how does that change you? How has that changed you as a person?
Ooh. So that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
But no, I love challenges. I know I love that question. I think that's the first time I've heard that one. No, I think for me it's being a third party, right? Is what I have been labeled as sometimes, and also just the reality of things. Because I will always see things because I didn't grow up in the U.S. Uh,
Hmm.
but when you come here, you tend to have a different perspective, right?
Hmm.
And it bleeds through to everything you do, the experiences you pick up. You can't help but because it will come out, whether you like
Hmm.
it or not. so,
Yeah,
so with
for
the
sure.
art specifically, what I do, I think a lot of that shows in the vibrancy of my pieces. People will come to my exhibits and they will say, oh, this, and I think I picked on that. What that means is, this is a fresh, this is human. What I'm experiencing in front of this art piece is human, but it's so liberating, or it's such a fresh perspective, right?
Hmm.
And I like that because I'm glad that as a third party coming from, different culture, it would be the same thing
Mhm.
if I was born here and I moved to Nigeria, the same thing is the way I would approach it. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, right? Is that we contribute to, whatever societies we're in. And those societies, they love things, I know there can be some negative things or approach towards immigrants,
Yep.
but there's just so much it's there's just so we can't deny there's so much we offer, right? And they know they like it and they want more of that, and if anything, I have never shied away from showing that side, from contributing in that way. Because for me specifically, it always comes down to the human, and what we're really here for, you know?
Thank you. Appreciate it. So, moving on to your work, are
Yes,
there
sir.
like a few series that you absolutely love, or you're absolutely proud of? I know an artist is always proud of all of their work, but do you have like there are like some specific series that you're like, this is it?
That's oh, thank you. Thank you. Because that's something I've been thinking about actually recently. And I think where I'm at, I'm still discovering, but where I'm at right now is I'm just experiencing, interpreting how I see life, right?
Okay.
So this piece is this, I don't know if you can see the,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the,
You can put it on camera so we can look at it. So we can
so
look at it.
there you go.
Nice. That's a nice
So
one. Yeah.
this landscape piece. So that's what we would consider like the first. It's an oil painting. That's what we would consider as the first layer, right?
Okay.
So I still have to go back. I had to wait for it to dry for a month, and
Wow. A whole month.
it's
You
a whole
have a lot of
process, right?
patience.
Yeah, but you could say this would be my nature series, right?
Okay.
It's not my it's not my de facto it's not my default, because
Mhm.
I would rather just like whatever the mind, whatever is, I just put it on paper,
Mhm.
on canvas, right? This one is teaching me to really observe, right?
Okay.
And puts exactly what you see, on the canvas.
Okay.
But if I had to pick one, there's a piece actually that is there's a recent piece, and I'll send it to you. Maybe somehow you could, put in the
Yeah.
video as
Put it
well.
up. Yeah.
But it's one of my favorites that is it has bees, and it has a hairspray on the right
Okay.
hand corner of the canvas, and there's a beautiful black, we're talking Sudanese black,
I like
beautiful
the
black.
reference. I like the
I
reference to
I
Sudanese.
got to, because there's a difference. There's a difference. There's Ghanaian black and there's Sudanese
Yep.
black. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
But a beautiful woman to the left, and there's bees coming out, interacting with her. But there's on the right hand corner there's hairspray, but in reality it's insecticide.
Okay.
And this is how I think, right? With the piece, people see it and they're like, okay, what's going on? And for me, it's storytelling, because I'm trying to bridge communities. I'm trying to tell a story of, at the end of the day, who out there is lying to us that this
Mhm.
is hairspray, when in
Yeah.
reality it's insecticide, and they are splitting
Wow.
our communities. And
Yeah.
that's the message. That's the story. And I think that's easily I don't see it being a popular one, and maybe that's why I
Mhm.
like it,
Mhm.
because the messaging is so strong to me personally, you know? And that's how I try to navigate how I do art is, okay, what's the story? And even if
Mhm.
there's no story, I'm praying and hoping that the abstract is still powerful enough for me to find a story from it, for me personally. And I think that's such a beautiful thing about art is it's just we have to express, we have to connect, we have to tell our stories. In Nigeria, I don't know if you know Tales by Moonlight, that old,
I do. Yeah, I
what
do.
I'm saying,
Yeah,
like
I
that,
do. I do. I remember
you know, it's
get told stories about torties and
yes, yeah.
and and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like that's what shapes us, man. That's what shapes us as a people. And I just hope, I hope we don't forget our communities and the stories that make us who we are.
We don't. I think that's a really beautiful quote that I'm gonna take from this. Is I hope we don't forget our communities and
Mm,
how they shape us. And stuff
yeah.
like that. Pretty cool. Thanks, Eddie. So now
Thank
I'm
you.
moving on to a couple. rapid fire questions.
Cool, 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 cool.
So if there's one color that you could live inside, like if you got to pick one color that you can live inside that color for the rest of your life, what would that color be and why?
Easy, easy royal blue.
Royal blue, and why is that?
I think, you said I'm shutting the room. Is that what you said?
No, 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 like
I'm
a color that you can live in for the rest of your life.
royal blue.
Okay,
I
royal blue. You
think
still
even when
is that your final
yeah,
answer?
yeah, because even when I paint, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
painting with and I'm mixing colors and royal blue, there's something it does when I'm not trying to be a nerd right now, but there's a way
Mm-hmm.
the sun will hit it and it just
Mm-hmm.
does cool stuff. It like shows different colors and
Interesting.
I don't know, there's something about royal blue, it has
Inter-
character to it.
It has character. Wow. So
Yeah.
what's one painting that nearly broke you and one that came the easiest? Can you describe them and maybe the emotions behind them?
The easiest would be the one that I thought would be the hardest one. And the hardest
Interesting.
one, the hardest one was the one the easiest one was the one I thought no, the hardest one was the one I thought would be the easy,
Mm-hmm.
it's tricky, but there's one that it was just a beetle. I painted a
Mm-hmm.
beetle, but for some reason the perfectionist in me woke up and I had to get it perfect. And that was this small piece, small, tiny piece, And interesting story, that piece fell out of my trunk. Someone picked it up when I was driving on a busy road in Anaheim, in Palisade, California. So, I lost four of my paintings, It fell out of the trunk. I came out and everyone was acting like, "Oh, we didn't see it." I was like,
Yeah,
someone picked it up."
you saw that.
Yeah, someone definitely picked it up.
You have the original and you're not
Yeah.
gonna give it up.
Yeah. So the reason I say that's because the beats was part of the ones that
The
got
ones.
lost. Yeah.
Int-
It was the hardest because I really wanted the way light to hit the bug. I really wanted
mhm.
to feel like I was right there with the bug.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting. And I'll play off of the, your last comment about the light. So if light was the
Yeah.
master architect, right?
Oof.
Or the
Yeah.
master painter, what is
Yeah.
one thing that keeps teaching you over and over again? Like, like one theme that you always see in your work as regards to light.
Just playing with light. To be honest, playing with light, and because light exposes things, right? Light is the one thing for me that I don't know. Light isn't it. The darkness is just an absence of light. I don't think
Mm,
darkness as a thing exists. So all we have, what we are is light. And the question is, do we want to strip that away or do we
mm-hmm,
want to use it to our advantage? And for me, I see a lot of that just playful nature because again, look, the big thing for me is the curiosity. The big thing for me is we need to keep at least a tiny part of us. We need to open that mind to explore, to have an open mind. And that has what art has done for me. So I will always advise that people at least once a week, once 2 weeks, do something creative. You know,
amazing.
and just it doesn't have to be so rigid, so black and white. Just play,
Mm-hmm.
just get a plane, just do whatever your mind tells you
Yeah,
to do. There's no restriction. No
have
one is
fun.
judging you. Yeah,
In closing, I would like to know, like in your own words, right, in your thoughts, how
yes,
has
sir.
studying abroad, kind of like paved the way for you to become this person that you are now and the person that you're becoming?
So I don't want to talk much because I left when I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I didn't really my understanding of Nigeria, I say, was kind of limited, right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew much, but I didn't know anything at the same time,
Yeah.
right? So, but what I knew, we can be very traditional people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. I just feel like who I am. I love the aspect. At the same time, I just need more escapism.
Yeah.
I don't need, I feel miserable when I'm boxed in.
Yeah.
And so in America, the one thing I appreciate was that just that idea of free,
Mm-hmm.
that you can come here and there's that, you don't feel, I didn't feel judged, right? To
Mm-hmm.
explore this version of me or this topic or, what I'm trying to say,
Yeah,
right?
I do. I do.
And I'm saying this, again, I left when I was 17. Obviously there's a huge part of that in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't experience that when I was in Nigeria.
Got it.
But I think America especially gives you the opportunity to just,
To be you, to exist,
do
just
just do
do
your
you.
thing. At least the OG, the original ideals of what this
Yeah.
land stands for, that's what it represents,
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. Well, Eddie, thank you very much for coming. In
Thank you.
closing, do you have any words of wisdom or word of advice? When I say words of wisdom, something else comes in my brain. But you have any words of advice for our audience?
No, I'm just honestly, thank you for this is great. This is cool. So I appreciate you having me on. I've seen you as an incredibly smart person. If there's anything, nothing out there. Just play. Honestly, play. I need to remind myself because
Yeah.
I always get in my head, but play, and that's when things happen. Be curious. Yeah, there's really nothing else.
Cool. Thanks, Eddie. I think, what you said, even though sounds, like just play,
Mm,
but I can tell you this, like, I have found more power in playing than in actually just, being all in. I think
mm, mhm.
most times when I feel tense and I feel like life is just not going the way I want it to go, it's
Mm.
because I have not been playing. I have not played a lot enough, and playing doesn't necessarily sometimes it's just, go play, go do
Because
something.
no, because like look, why do we? I feel like some people we need to be told, okay, now it's time to play. Oh,
Yeah,
the World Cup is on. Oh,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it,
yeah,
but like we need to step out that box, and we need to just play because why not?
yeah, I agree.
You know,
Well, and some of our audience may want to go look at your amazing work. If they want to check out your amazing work,
for
just
sure.
where can they find your work?
So you can. My website is Eddy, Eddi, Ekpo, Ekpo, again, eddyekpo.com. And my Instagram, I got IG on just Eddy Ekpo. You can find me there. And I am doing big things with my art. I'm loving it. It's hard, it's difficult, but there's a lot of just good stuff happening at the same time. So,
Amazing,
yeah, so you can find me, Eddy Ekpo. Just look that up and everything should pop right up on Google.
amazing. We'll put that on this as well,
Cool.
so people can easily find it.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you very much,
Appreciate
Eddie,
that.
for coming. Really appreciate the time, man.
Thank you.